Through the ups and downs, we stand tall in this journey of growth. Day by day, through the ups and downs, we stand tall in.
Yeah,
Hello, we're on.
Oh, hello.
I'm spitting as I speak. That 5, 2, 4, 3, 2, 1 come a bit
I
quick
didn't
for
take any
you.
notice. Well, the thing is, today, one of my AirPods is out of battery and not charging, so I only got one in. I'm easily distracted, and I can hear
You
Frank
look like a
huffing and
teenager.
puffing. Yeah, one ear in, one ear off. But now
That's
I'm
what they
fine.
do, isn't it?
Sean's won't be up yet, so it's all good.
Ah, okay.
How are you?
Yes, okay. Thank you.
What we're discussing today, discipline, like discipline, not as in the form of locking yourself in a in a taking yourself away and locking yourself in a cupboard for being a bad girl. Um, that's what springs to mind. How funny is that? Not that I ever got locked in a cupboard, I might say. I'm not Harry Potter, but
or
yeah.
hitting your animal or your child or your
Yeah.
something.
Well,
That's not what we're talking about, isn't it?
That's a good point to bring up. That is not what we're talking about.
We are talking about.
And this conversation came about because you think, because I was asking, what did I ask you? I asked you about, do you ever just think, can we swear on this? I don't know.
Yeah, I think
I
you
won't.
often do.
Well, do I? Oh God, I'm terrible, aren't I?
I think we both do occasionally.
So I basically just said, do you ever just say, just fuck it and have a pizza and have a day off and sit on the sofa? Because I do, and maybe not pizza, ice cream. I do sometimes. I do just think, do you know what? I might be working on a very heavy subject, for example, and then I just think I can't. My brain's done now, and I can't do anymore. And I think previously, particularly when working in corporate, I would have just forced myself because I had deadlines and deadlines. But because it's perhaps my own personal deadline, I will be less disciplined. But you then said that you don't, you would never do that. But then led on to thinking that I was more disciplined than you. And I just think that's not true.
I don't think I said, no, I would never do that. I think I came back with about 3 or 4 paragraphs of different circumstances.
But you wouldn't. You said that you had never. I just thought that's it, and just whoop, Netflix, whoop, and you know.
Well, I think it's I think we need a
You've
good
got
hour
young
to
children.
talk about this.
You've got young children. I think that's another thing. I wouldn't have done it then.
What bit of your sitting on the sofa and eating ice cream is the lack of discipline? Is it the stopping work? Is it the eating the ice cream?
I've talked to ChatGPT about this. I haven't talked to a therapist. I've talked to ChatGPT, but I think it goes back again, and I should have really known this. Is the amount of I don't think I'd had a good enough night's sleep the night before this specific time. So this wasn't a sitting on the sofa. This was I just can't do any more work today kind of thing. Whereas in corporate, I would have just done it. But this was me personally, was when I was overloaded with things and everything got too much. And I got very overwhelmed with information of things that I needed to do. And I kind of went into freeze. And that is that is a common state for me to get into. And it always has been. So I literally will just be like, I can't do anything. Even and things like going out for a walk don't necessarily help me either. I have to kind of just sit with it, I think is the word. And perhaps the ice cream comes in because I brought it in.
Yeah, so that's what I'm wondering though.
That's not necessarily discipline then, is it?
Because we talk a lot about wanting to stick to a healthy, to eat nutritious food. So that's what I was wondering, whether your lack of discipline was eating the ice cream or whether you...
It's not working, it's not getting on. I've always got things that I could be doing. Yeah. And I think what you said is that'd be easy. That was a word that came out. I remember you said in your message that you don't choose that because it would be easy.
There might have been more before that or after that, though.
It was a very different context you gave me.
I think I probably don't put as much pressure on myself as you to do things. So because I probably have limited time. No, I think that I said that to you, didn't I? That I have like a kind of amount of things that I want to do, but I don't seek more. I sometimes feel like I do the minimum.
Okay.
I think that's been a theme of my life. Do the minimum I can to get
And I'm
through.
and I think I do everything or nothing.
Right.
So I think that's my mode. Is I will literally, but then when I've looked at, and this might come up in the book that you're writing, when it comes to seasons and how people have worked,
Mm,
say writers and things like that, they will go away for, a season, write their book, and literally that'll be all they'll do. And then they'll have the next season will just be sitting by the pool. There's people that are big creatives that I've read about in certain books, and now I haven't got the book in front of me that I can't think what it was called, but it was like big creatives. You'll probably know more about this than me, and they look like they're sitting by the pools. Like film producers.
yeah.
Perhaps not the best idea, but I think that was one example that was used in the book that I was reading. They look like they're sitting around the pool, just like, doing nothing. But for 6 months beforehand, they have been 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, working on a film,
Yeah.
and these are the fruits of their labour.
Yeah.
And unlike us plodding along as such, and then, whereas they'll have big sprints, stop, big sprints, stop. And perhaps that's how I should be working, because that's perhaps how I work best.
Maybe that is what you're doing, but you're just doing it on a smaller scale, and so the stop
But
is
then
real.
when you listen to the people that that have perhaps taught you about how to run businesses or how to do certain things, and particularly from working in corporate as well, it's like, well, 9 to 5, you work, and it's maybe perhaps getting out of that mindset of doing that and being allowed to have the time off to yourself.
Yeah. I think that I'm not necessarily consciously aware when I'm deciding to not bother. Maybe. I don't really know. It's a complicated one.
Mm,
But you're obviously really aware of these moments when you feel
mm,
like but maybe it's your own guilt for not doing something.
yeah.
But what is discipline anyway?
Well, you see, when what's the one of the books? So Jocko Willink is like some ex-Navy SEAL guy, right? I've got his
Mm,
book here. It's brilliant, it is, but it's like totally makes you feel like you should be doing more. Yeah, Jocko Willink and Leaf Babin, and yeah, here he is. I've taken notes, and his stuff. I mean, he's from one extreme to the other. He's written a children's book actually,
mm,
on discipline, but like it's more the ownership mindset. So for the sort of concept of his is you're not to blame, but if things you're in control of everything, right, that you do.
mm.
So if you don't do it, you're the only one that's to blame for it as such.
Yeah.
So it's taking ownership for yourself. So it's no excuses. Oh yeah, so what have I got here for his? Yeah, so his philosophy is basically this: no excuses, no blaming others, take full responsibility for everything. What happens under your watch? It's military minded. Discipline equals freedom. So you control yourself, or the world controls you.
Hmm.
So yeah, and sort of some of the stuff is ownership mindset. Even if something's not your fault, it's still your responsibility to lead through it.
Hmm.
And then everyone should understand discipline isn't just sort of top down orders, it's clarity across the board. So I suppose this is more in a leadership perspective, and perhaps that's why I was reading it from a corporate perspective on how to get people to do things, being a project manager. So but I suppose in discipline in a way that allows you to be able to complete tasks. That's
So,
how I see it. I know, like older people with discipline is like child discipline, telling people off, perhaps. So
mm,
is it you're telling yourself off?
when you do that, you say you just freeze and you sit on the sofa and eat
Mm.
ice cream. Is that Have you made yourself a plan of when you're going to start and when you're going to stop and when you're going to have breaks?
I will sit down and write down what I'll brain dump and then I'll categorize everything. So it's an active freeze because I will order my thoughts and I will have them on something, and then I'll be like, right, that's enough. I've done that, and then I know what I've got to do. So now I'm going to just stop, and then I'll pick that up when I've got the capacity. It
But
feels like I've got nothing in left, no capacity. That's why I think, and I think I think people with discipline push through. So people with true, is it a form of procrastination? And in a way,
but
I
what you
think we've
but
spoken about procrastination before, haven't we?
yeah, but push through. What you like you it, I don't work. Like if I've got a task to do, I don't start it and not stop until I finish. And in between, like starting and stopping, I might do something like watch TV or other
But do you
stuff,
see? This is
go
another
out
thing
for a
that I've got
coffee
is
or
is the timeline thing. So, and this is something that I've been pulled up on before. Is like you're not going to run like, well, you could run out of time. I could get run over by a bus, as I say. But it's. I think as I've got older, I've I've then thought about, well, I've got to get done because you haven't got infinite time left.
yeah, I hear that on a longer scale. Like you might want to get that thing done within the next month.
Mm.
But do you then have a plan of how much of that thing you're going to do each day?
No,
So I think this
I
is how
just
I
have a
used to be.
priority list. I have a priority list because if I say to myself that I have to get this done, I'm like, oh, you've got to
Yeah.
get done. But if I had somebody telling me that I had to get, and I'd be like, all right, then
So when you wake, I
I
know
don't need to employ a boss to boss
you
me
do
around.
your like weekly plan.
If I don't get it done, I don't. I would just be like, 'cause I'm very much shiny object, but shiny object um, in a work sense. Like I've got loads of different things. I never just sit there and think, oh, I'm going to play a video games. I don't know what people do that don't do work.
So is it do you just scrap your plan when you have these
I
days?
reorganize.
But
Oh,
I
as in like when I do nothing.
yeah.
Yeah, I will just be like, right, I'll start again tomorrow, or I'll start again. Let me have this little break, and then I'll come back to it.
So you might have stuff in the planner, but you just ditch it.
That will get pushed over to the next day.
Okay. So like the person who wants to change the way they eat, who says, "Oh, I'll start tomorrow. Just
Yeah,
eat this
yeah.
chocolate bar and
Starting
I'll start tomorrow."
from yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
But
so
but it doesn't last. I wouldn't say it lasts forever, but I do wonder if it comes back to. I don't know. I think I've gone into lots of detail about it, and I don't know whether or not it's me from years and years of just pushing and pushing and pushing, and then all of a sudden I just think, no, you don't need to. You don't need to do that all the time.
no,
And I'm older now.
but I don't think you're I think you're very, very, very high discipline.
But what makes you think that? Because I'm really interested in what, like,
Because um you are in a situation now where you're not being forced to work by an employer. So, because I always think this about people who say, "Oh, I've got no discipline or no motivation," yet they go into work every day. So with a threat, they're fine. So the threat of losing their job, they're fine. But you're currently getting up every morning and working for yourself with no threat.
if I didn't have a dog, maybe the dog's my threat.
Well, the
I
dog
do
gets you
think
up,
if I
but it doesn't make you stay up and work.
this is true. Yeah.
What you're
I
saying is
suppose maybe.
basically you're taking a break every now and then,
Yeah.
but you
And I
haven't
don't
even
use
had a
weekends
holiday.
like I used to. I don't use weekends. No, I haven't, have I? And even on holiday, I do work, and that's why yeah, even like when we went away last year, I worked for the mornings, and then we did stuff in the afternoons.
Yeah. It's a
And then
tricky
this
one,
year,
isn't it? Because I
mm,
reckon some people would say you need to put into your diary time for breaks, but then actually what you're saying is you take a break when your body needs it. Not like
yeah,
it'd be a
I
bit
don't
rubbish
plan.
if you had
Yeah,
a
I wouldn't like. I always say this week, Pete's off work right for a week. That throws a spanner in my works, and I'm like, don't think we'll be going to be going out every day because I've got things I need to get done. So
yeah,
I will then, yeah, I'll have to select today. I said, right, I'm going to finish work at say 2 o'clock, and then I'll come over and we'll do things then. So I suppose, yeah,
it's
my
hard,
grandma.
isn't it, when
I
you've got
just.
someone that you're kind of living alongside who, when
Mm.
they're off
And he's
work,
on shift
they
work as
don't have
well.
to
He's
do
on shift
anything.
work, and that really does, like you were saying about your days are the same. I struggle with that because if Pete finishes nights, he'll come round here at 7 o'clock and we'll have coffee and breakfast together. And
Yeah,
then he goes home and he sleeps. But I'm like, oh, this is my time to be. But I won't see him for a week if I don't do that. And I
yeah,
don't begrudge him, but I have to change my plans.
yeah, yeah. And that's
So
quite
that,
difficult.
yeah,
And then
because
when
my
he's
best
not
work is at this
working,
time of day.
yeah, when
And then
he's
when,
not
yeah, when,
working,
yeah,
he's not working. Like
yeah.
he literally has all that. He's still being paid to not work.
And also with him, and we know we've discussed this, is when he's off work, I'm always thinking about things that I need to be doing. Like you say, all the tabs open, whereas he just la 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 la,
Yeah.
nothing going on.
So
So
do you think you need I don't think you could be more disciplined, could you?
yeah, maybe it's because it's the timelines that I put on myself, and then I don't do it, and then I'm like, yeah, I've done it.
What do you think? Uh, I mean, where are we going with
That's why
this?
I think I'm not so disciplined because I don't always do what I say I'm going to do, and I think maybe that's what discipline is.
Yeah, maybe you just need to
It's a time frame. I
readjust.
do things, but not within the time frames.
Oh,
Like
you
the
know,
draft yesterday when you said to me, "Oh, 4 weeks." I was like, "Oh, good, 4 weeks." I haven't got to do it all today because I keep saying I'm going to send stuff over to you, and I
will
don't.
you get it done within the 4 weeks though? Have you got a plan for how
Yes,
you can get it done within the four
yes, I have
weeks?
because I sat down and did it yesterday
There you
after you
go.
said that.
So when you're realistic about stuff, it works. Maybe
Yeah.
look, I think that I could learn from you quite a lot. So
Sit on
I
the
don't
sofa and eat
really
ice
feel
cream. Then do it.
warranted to sit here and say like you know give any tips because I think your discipline with regards to work
I love a
is.
plan, though, aren't I? That's project manager by trade. At
Do
the end of the day, I love a plan. I
you
love a
spend
colourful
all your time
plan.
planning and no time
No,
doing
not all.
anything?
No. But when I fit last night, I got really tired and I was working on something, and I thought, right, and it got quite late, and I think I was expecting Sean to be home earlier, and normally when she gets home, I'm like, oh, time to go to bed, kind of thing, because she comes back from the gym late, and then and I just carried on working. I was like, oh, and then I looked at the time, and I was just like, right, so I then typed into ChatGPT what I'd done from my task list of the day. And then I just said, look, this is where I'm at now because I'll probably forget. This is why I do it. And then I said, look, can you just remind me where I am in the morning? This is what I've done and give me a task list of the first things I need to do after the podcast. So then I've got a list of what I need to get done. And I will do that.
Yeah.
But
So
in my mind, I wanted to get it done before I went to bed last night, but it didn't happen because there was a lot more to do than I thought. I
mm,
suppose that happens, doesn't it, in projects and stuff. But I suppose from going back to the corporate Angela, and it would be you've got deadlines to meet and you must meet them. Sometimes you can push them over, but other times it's just get it in, minimum viable product, get it in, get it done.
how would you like to be different?
I really like somebody cracking the whip over me.
What would you
Maybe
do
that's what I
differently
need. I
if
need
they
to employ
did?
the CEO.
But what would you do differently?
They'd be like, well, when's this due? And I'd be like, like you did with the 4 weeks, except my timelines used to be like, this needs to be in by the end of the week. And I'd be like, shit. But then I'd have other people to help me, whereas it's just me now.
It's very different work as well.
Yeah.
And this is supposed to be a bit more enjoyable
And it
and have a bit more purpose. But how would you do differently?
yeah, I suppose it's unpredictable anyway, isn't it? Because it's unpredictable when you'll be working with somebody. It's unpredictable when you don't know when people are perhaps going to book in, I suppose, as well. That's another, the unpredictability of things of, okay, you've got the set times in your calendar, but there's a lot of things you can't predict, I suppose, whereas before it was very structured.
Yeah.
I suppose I'm still unlearning, whereas you never got that as conditioned as me, did you? It's conditioning, isn't it?
No, well, and even if I did, I've had a very long time to undo it.
Mm. Maybe I just need to calm my ass down, and I'll never be as disciplined as Jocko Willink, though. But yeah, he's the ultimate Navy SEAL. I mean,
What does he do differently?
he gets up at 4 o'clock. I think a lot of his stuff is, like the Mark Wahlberg stuff, where I don't know if you saw it, where he's like, I get up at 2 o'clock in the morning, and there's loads of I do my, and then
Yeah.
whilst you're sleeping, I'm training and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And but yeah, like his stuff is like, I'm reading from some of the points that I've taken away from his book, and it's like ego is the enemy. So discipline means set an ego aside to do what's necessary, even when it's uncomfortable. And I think that's what I take away from a lot of people that I've perhaps learned from or seen as mentors, is that your mind is your enemy when it comes to being comfortable in situations when you want to get things done. So, like procrastination, perhaps like that other book, and I've got that here as well, Eat That Frog, getting the worst task done first thing, so that you can then do all of the easy things. Oh, well, not the easy things, but get the hardest thing done first thing in the morning.
But what about then what Naval says? What's his Naval's surname?
Naval Ravikant.
Who says there's no plan. And the
Oh,
only thing
yeah,
Naval seems
but
to
he
be
does caveat that with the fact that him before Naval, like pre being a billionaire, had to have some, and now he's at the point, and he says that he's at the point where he can do that. He couldn't do that 20 years ago or ever long before, when he was building his billions.
So is the intention to be disciplined
Are we
to
in the
become a
building phase? Oh,
billionaire,
am I in
and
the
then
no? And then I could just go
and then you can just sit on the sofa and eat ice cream?
And there's another thing. He's big on waking up at 4:30 a.m. Not because of the hour, but because it trains mental toughness daily. But this is the thing, right? So I think like you were saying, we were talking about meeting people where they are. Like, for somebody like me, if I'm in that kind of state where I'm really overwhelmed, having a cold shower at 4 o'clock in the morning is going to put me in an even worse state. I need to perhaps have a warm bath to calm my nervous system, rather than send it over the edge and put myself into some sort of shock. So I don't necessarily think all of this tough advice, particularly for perhaps people that have had severe trauma, is helping.
Yeah, and do you know, it was really interesting the other day because we were out for a walk with friends, and we got to the end of the walk, and one of the friends said, "Oh, I think we've earned ourselves a cup of tea now." And I actually was
A biscuit.
grateful that they said a cup of tea, because it really bugs me when people do that whole, like, "Oh, we've been for a walk, we can eat some cake now." That just
That'd be
annoys me
me.
for some reason, because I'm like, you don't have to
And that's why you're eating
continuously,
fatty.
like, you don't have to continuously replenish. Like, you've just walked a few miles. Like, you don't now need to go and like,
Literally, if I
you
did
know.
that, I would. Oh, I said the W word, and now I'm getting sideways
Oh,
glances.
but
Did I say it?
you can go for one of those, and you can still do that even when you're on a fast or something. Like, you don't need to go and, so it's always annoys me a little bit. I'm always like, no, you don't actually need to go and do that now, but that's fine. But anyway, he said it, but I then, and I know this has been said in podcasts when they talk about dopamine and stuff like that, but do you ever get this? I get this quite a lot. It might be my slow processing, but you know when you or you hear a common phrase like forever and you don't think anything of it, and then suddenly it just
Like swings and
goes in.
roundabouts.
Suddenly, suddenly you just get it. Like it's just like, oh yeah, now that makes sense. And I never really anyway. So this has been said quite a lot
An
in dopamine stuff.
example?
No, so this is what I'm going on to.
Oh,
It takes me a little while to get there. And back to my original point.
I like to dance around the houses. Oh. La 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 la.
I can't remember it. Um, we, as hunter-gatherers, Homo sapiens, we obviously would have had a big expedition to get food. It would have either been a foraging, go out and forage and pick the food and dig up the roots and all of those things, or go running hard and fast to catch your meat. And so it was a case of physically working hard and then eating food. And so I believe that our body is designed to work hard in a way and then have a reward afterwards.
Mm.
Like that, the dope, if you take it back to those days, the working hard
So
was
can I sit on my sofa and have ice cream when I've done a lot of work then?
so I think you might want to question the ice cream.
No.
No, the point is, yes, you are if you've worked hard and you're feeling like worn out from working hard. I definitely get that. Like when you've literally only sat at a computer the whole day, but
I
you
mean, I
finish
couldn't
and you're
understand
like
the statistics.
exhausted. It's like you've done a marathon or something. And
Yes, that's what I felt like on Saturday when I messaged you, and I couldn't understand. I was like, "Oh, this is exciting," and then I was like, "Oh my God, I don't understand any of it now." And
yeah,
then I had a meltdown mentally.
so I'm not sure if like the then eating ice cream to suppress the feelings or make yourself feel better is totally the answer. But I think there is something to be said for receiving a reward after and by reward I mean something that's gonna,
An apple.
there should be some kind of dopamine trigger at the end
Yeah,
of hard graft. Ideally, walking a
yeah.
long way
Take
or
Frank for a
running
walk down to the beach,
a long way. No,
which
well,
I
that should
do.
be the hard work, really. And then the
Oh,
reward should be like a nutritious, nourishing meal. But
yeah.
we kind of, you know,
Not hard work, Frank.
no,
Yes. No, I know what you mean. Yeah.
I don't know. But that's just, I didn't feel so bad about my friend saying, now we can have a cup of tea. It might have been that it was a cup of tea and not a big, like, processed
Yeah.
food.
I'd have been like, biscuit. Good job I wasn't
Chocolate.
there. Oh, I would have annoyed you.
He did then buy a big slab of cake, so there you go.
Maybe you just didn't want to say it.
Maybe he didn't want me to judge.
Yeah. So do you think everybody has some form of discipline? Like, do you think, so I've had this conversation with Pete about, say, people that have never worked because
Mm,
their family has never worked and they just survive off the state, for example,
mm,
and but they're happy.
yeah,
Because they don't know any different.
yeah.
And they're the happiest people around as
Mm,
such. Is that external? Are they? Or do they just not know any different? And are they've got to be disciplined in a way to not bloody work. I'd find that impossible.
yeah. I'm not sure discipline and happiness go together, or I don't think that they're like connected.
Mm. But
Not that.
if you didn't have discipline to do things, then you wouldn't be able to.
Well, it'd be great, wouldn't it? Sit on your sofa, watch TV, and eat ice cream all day, every day, forever.
Is that not having values?
I'm not sure
Going
I'd
back to
feel
the
totally
values.
happy. But some people like that, don't they? And is that
But
not
then
discipline, or is it?
But then is discipline then to us a devotion to our values rather than anything else.
Is it a devotion to the choices we make?
Yeah.
What about like, yeah. I mean, you chose to sit on the sofa and eat. I definitely do
Yeah, it
something
wasn't, and
that's.
nobody said to go on. Nobody said to me, "Go on, go on. Oh, you deserve a break."
This isn't to say I don't sit
ChatGPT
on the
might have.
sofa and do nothing, by the way.
ChatGPT might
Of course it would have done. I love to sit on the
have. Oh, it
sofa and
loves.
do
It tells me.
nothing.
It tells. It confirms me. Yeah. Oh, here we go. Yeah. So yeah, the confirmation bias. We tend to look for evidence that matches our belief.
Mm.
So I'll look for evidence that I've worked really hard. Therefore,
So you do. Yeah, I do sit on the sofa and do nothing, and I love nothing more than sitting on the sofa with a cup of tea and 2 squares of chocolate and a book and just read it. Like I love that, especially
yeah.
if the fire's on. But I do choose to do that. I don't view that as a lack of discipline because I'm not sat in front of a computer when I'm doing that.
Mm.
My lack of discipline would be like we go to the ponies today, or like what my equivalent of what you're talking about is us going to the ponies, and we always do this 6 mile hack, and it is a bit exhausting. Like
No
I,
adders this time.
oh God, yeah, I get exhausted because I have to carry all the stuff, because they're only riding one pony. They switch over. I've got riding helmets. Then they, no doubt, take their coats but get hot within the first 2 minutes. I've got 2 coats to carry. Like, and it's on sand. It's
Oh,
walking on sand, so it's
yeah.
trudging, and it's a horse that you've got to keep under. Like, it's all of that, and so it
Yeah.
is. And six
It's
miles
not
is
just
like
physical.
it's
It's
not a
yeah.
little. It's not a little. Little. It's not a little
Right.
walk, is it?
Little. So yeah,
Um,
you're taking on my accent now.
no, Esmer's trying to say it all the time. It's little. Um, they go gonna. I go gonna, going to. So when we go to the ponies and we do this 6 miles on the sand, hard work. Every now and then there might be like someone might slip in or we could just like do some work in the school today or something. It would be so easy to go, yeah, let's not bother with the walk.
Mm.
Discipline to me is the thing inside me that makes me, even though it's hard work and honestly I really can't be bothered and I'm exhausted when I get
Which
back,
is what going
the
back. Here
thing
we
that
go.
makes me do it.
This is what that's the Jocko the side of it is. Is
That's values, that
yeah.
is. Yeah.
Even when it's
Yeah.
uncomfortable, discipline means setting ego aside to do what's necessary, even
Mm,
when it's
yeah.
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But how far do you take that? That's walking the horses. That would be my dream. I'd love that. If
I
I could
think,
have my dog around horses, that would be my dream. But unfortunately, he hates them. But to me, that would I would just be like, well, that's pleasure.
yeah, it is a pleasure when it's not on hard terrain and with loads of stuff to carry
Yeah.
and everything like that. Yeah, if it were just me and my, like, on easy floor without all the stuff, it would be lovely. So I think Gabor Mate's relevant here because he talks about being a
Yes.
workaholic and he views that as a trauma response and an
Yeah.
addiction issue. And
And I definitely I have self gone inside and looked at things, and I definitely think that it's down to being told that I'm not good enough and that I should have done more work when I was at school and things like that because of not getting exam results and things. So I suppose I can see where the dread inside me comes from, definitely. And I
that's
do
you.
think that he's right.
But what about your guy, your Navy guy?
Mm.
Is he,
Well,
if
yeah, I
he were
don't
to
know
speak
about
to
his.
Gabor Mate, for example, would Gabor
I don't know.
Mate
He
say
might
to
have done
him,
actually. To be fair, he might have actually spoken to him. I didn't look that up.
but might Gabor Mate say to him, actually, you've got a problem?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Um, he, but he is beyond. I mean, the kind of thing that he's had to endure to get to where he is today. There's a minimal set of men specifically that would be able to get to his level of discipline, and there are very few of them.
But
And
maybe
I
they
do
don't want
think that
to.
if you did a brain scan on them, that there'd be a certain level of um, Yeah, a psychopathy perhaps. I don't know.
Do you think?
Yeah, definitely. They're risk averse for a start, aren't they? There's a lot of um they lack a lot of empathy, I think. Not like they don't care, but they're very risk
Hold on,
like
risk averse or
they'll
risk takers?
well they're not they're not yeah, so I suppose risk takers they're not worried about the risk
Yeah,
at all. So they don't have any um they'll dive in. There's
yeah,
nothing stopping them. They don't care.
yeah, yeah,
Not they
yeah,
don't
yeah, yeah.
care. That's
Yeah.
I say that a lot, and I don't mean that. But they will
They
not
can
consider
shut
the
it
risk.
off by the sound.
Yeah,
They can shut
yeah,
off the any emotion
yeah,
if there is any.
yeah. If there is any, that's the thing.
Mm,
Because like psychopaths, they can like some psychopaths are like dead out, will go and kill people type thing,
mm,
and not think anything of it. Whereas others can learn, even though they are psychopaths and they're diagnosed psychopaths and they understand that's what they are, they can mirror people's emotions, and they will perhaps pair up with an empathetic person, not to hurt them but to learn from them,
mm,
and they feed off each other. So a psychopath and an empath, say, if they were together and they knew what each other were, then the empath would then be able to help. Hold on, you're taking this a bit far. This is how this is what other people are feeling. Whereas a psychopath will see the empath being taken advantage of by people and will say, "Look, no, that's not right. You're being too nice to that person." And
mm.
that kind of relationship, which I've looked at and I can't remember where that's from, is something that will pull people together. Whereas I don't know, I think maybe they've learnt to control it. That these Navy SEALs and their discipline, but then I don't know that necessarily is it in every area of their life. I think Jocko Willink is a shining example. I mean, he's done a lot of work with children, so I don't think they've, like you say, maybe they shut it off. That's the right word, not calling them psychopaths, but they have a very good way of shutting off certain parts of their, whether that's trained into them or they're born like that, and that's why they end up there.
Yeah, it's making me think about when we went camping a couple of years ago. My friend's son brought his friend. Well, the child was 14, I think. I think he must have only just been 14. He must have been 14. He can't have been 13. Um, he actually came on his own, this child, halfway through the camping trip on a train from Guildford to Weymouth. Like it's quite a long way. And
Mm.
he came on his own. He arrived with his own tent, like one man tent, and slept in it, on his
Was he a
own.
friend of yours?
Our friend's son's friend.
Oh, it wasn't just some random kid that's decided to take himself off to I won't say where it is, yeah.
No,
Yeah.
no, 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 the friend's son. And sorry, yeah, the friend's son's friend. And I would go out running. I was going running in the morning, and when I'd get up, this kid's alarm would go off at 6:30, and he also would get up and go out running. One day I
Was
said
he a
to him,
military child?
yeah. One day
Ah,
I said to him, "Are you gonna come running? I'll show you where to go." Thinking I got this
so
kid
my
come
dad's taking
running.
me across the South Downs, well, not South Downs Way, what is it? The Jurassic Coastal Path, yeah.
Yeah, he was gone. The guy,
Mm.
I'm
Ah.
running. I'm like still at the campsite. I can see him down the thing in Weymouth, like gone, honestly. And anyway, yeah, and then he nearly paddleboarded out to France. We
It's the lack of fear, I think, isn't it? They're pushed more,
yeah, but
without a
anyway, I
doubt.
have met the dad. I'd never met the parents um before, and then I met the dad at a party, and very, very serious character. I mean, my friend was having a bit of a laugh about his son nearly paddleboarding to France, and he wasn't amused. But um, it's just, yeah, that discipline that was in the child already,
Mm.
clearly coming
Yeah.
from the father.
But also it's a level of confidence, and also I think particularly if they've been brought up in that environment, they know how to protect themselves so they're not putting the child in danger.
Mm. Yeah. Well, I mean, what danger, the fact that he was a child and he was doing all this stuff on
Yeah,
his own.
a
But
14-year-old, my 14-year-old daughter getting on a train and going, I'd be terrified. Something,
yeah,
she would be like, do you want to come and see my puppies? Yeah, all right. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
Whereas a 14-year-old military child, I'm not just saying military, so the 14-year-old child that has been brought up in that kind of environment will have no doubt been taught how to protect themselves
Mm.
from danger, and therefore their parents would have no qualms with them, and that is character building without beating your child, allowing them to have that level of autonomy over where they're going.
It was even the tent,
I think it's a good thing.
most of the other kids would come and sleep in with their friend's family, and
Mm,
everyone had big enough tents, but set up his little one man thing,
I
one of
love
those
that.
long ones, where it's
Yeah.
like just like a sleeping bag type
Yes.
thing.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
the triangular ones. Yeah.
yeah.
They were so easy to put up though. I used to sleep in them, and now they've made it
Mm.
all complicated with all these bendy things and blow up tents. Just give me an A-frame, and I know where I am. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it wasn't even it was one of those curvy, well, it must have been a new one, a curvy thing.
Oh.
Anyway, he was very happy, but it was quite surprising. All of the adults were just astounded, really. He was
So do
like
you
a
think
man. He was
that's a
like a
level of
man. He even was tall and had the physique of a man, but he was a child.
Mm. But I think as
Mm.
well. So, do you think that? I think I remember my brother would have done things like that. He was in the Sea Cadets and things like
Mm.
that. They're good for children for getting them into discipline. Maybe if I went to Brownies.
Oh, me too.
Um, and yeah, and I just think, God, if they'd have girls weren't allowed into the scouts and stuff like that. But I remember going with my brother, I'd be like, I want to do that because he'd be out on the water in boats having a right old laugh, and
Mm.
we'd be sitting in a bloody school hall making, I don't know, sewing stuff and getting badges. Like, what? I want to be
Yeah.
out there. Like, why? There's another one for what the girls and the boys are doing. Now, I think now they're allowed to join, but I think that really helps with the discipline side of things. I suppose maybe I've had to learn it myself. That's why I feel you don't know whether you're doing it right.
Yeah. I don't claim to be brilliant either, to be honest. I'm pretty good at doing the things I want to do,
See, I think you are being more like Juliet.
but I don't go above and beyond. So
Yeah. I think when maybe that's why, because um yeah, because it was always I wanted to do that. I wanted to be the best.
well, I
So
noticed that when you were talking about your results from your exam or your test,
yeah,
not your essay,
yeah,
and
and then yeah,
you wanted to get a first. Well, great,
yeah.
good, go for it, because you should. That wouldn't be me. I'd be like, I just,
What's
as
the
long as I
point in doing it
pass.
though? What's the point in doing it if you're not gonna
I'd like to give
do it
myself enough time
100%?
to do something properly in the future. I spread myself so thinly
Mm.
that I can't do anything. I can't do anything to that good quality. And I think, hopefully one day I'll be able to stop. Well, I say I could have. There's a lot of things I do now that I don't have to do, but um,
I think also your children are younger, and I think when I look back to when Sean was that kind of age, and I think that is what you should be concentrating on
I'm
is
not sure
your
it is what I'm
children.
concentrating on though.
No, but your children and your and the life that you're building around them and with them at the moment. And
Mm.
that's where things are. And then when, like Sean's older now, it's not like, so I went and got the dog. But you just like
So exactly, that's the kind of that's what I mean. That's what I do. Like fill the time,
yeah,
but rather it be
yeah.
better. I think that's a limiting belief thing. Actually, I
Mm.
think it's easier for me to say I haven't got the time to get a first or whatever than it is to say I just didn't achieve it. So maybe I just don't give myself enough time, and then
I'm not saying I'm gonna get a first, but I'd like to. That's what I'd like to aim for. What's the point in thinking, well, I just get a
I think you should aim
two,
for it.
one, or
Absolutely.
I don't know, but I really didn't want to say that out loud because now I've don't mind saying it to you. Now I've got proper accountability.
Yeah. Well, I think you should go for it. How's it going?
Yeah, good. Yeah, apart from me having the meltdown on Saturday when I went to the lecture and was shown how to do all these statistics and variables and that is the whole point of me wanting to do this, is to be able to have a very much more balanced view when it comes to the therapy side of things, and being able to really I don't know, logically be able to think about it, instead of, I think some people that don't understand, they'll read certain things and be like, well, they're right. Oh yeah, that's the right thing. Whereas I'll be like, okay, that's a good view, but then let's look at some really peer-reviewed specific studies that have been done on this kind of thing, that have taken into account things that I'd perhaps like to have taken into account, and the kind of research that I'd like to look at, that I find easy to look at, maybe like, I don't know, like the quality. People have been asked questions, so qualitative research rather than
Yeah.
statistic stuff. I think
What year are you in?
the second year now.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah.
Yeah,
So you're coming to the
but
end
it's
of the
still,
second year.
but it's still. I think it's relatively. It's 2027 is when I'll finish it, if I go hard. And I am going to. So I've got to double up on some
Is
stuff
that a
because obviously it's
4-year course
distance.
then?
3 year.
Don't you finish that in next year then?
No, because I've done one already.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So if you've done one and you're finishing year 2 this year.
27. No, because it's distance, isn't it? So you've got to split it up. So it's not as quick as if you were doing it before.
Oh, right. Are you going to do the
Like
masters afterwards?
you have to, yeah. But I don't know. I've actually, I am going to, definitely, but I'm not sure precisely what in. I'm torn between going down the forensic route or children. I don't know yet. I'm going to see what happens. There's lots of different things that I'm looking at the moment, but again, that's going to be a lot of work. Will I have the time? Will I have the capacity?
Well, you will, yeah.
You will, if you're disciplined enough.
Mm-hmm.
But like, here's another thing that I brought up that I was thinking about, is more the gentler discipline angle. So you've got your Jocko Willink, right? And then have you read Atomic Kittens, Atomic Habits, the James Clear book?
No. I
Bit
thought you were
different from
going to say
Kerry
Kerry
Katona.
Katona.
No. Oh no. But so it's a softer book on how to do things. So James Clear is very much the opposite. Not the he is a bit the opposite of Jocko. He's not like, give me 20. He's more like, well, if you just get. He's a kind of the seasonal type person, I
Right.
think. Yeah, don't focus. So his identity-based habits. Yeah, key ideas to bring. So he doesn't. Don't just focus on what you want to do. Focus on who you want to become. So it's a different way of looking at it, I think. Whereas Jocko would be like, you get up at 4:30 every morning, you do the hard shit, you get stuff done. Whereas he's like, focus on who you want to become. What would you tomorrow want you today to do? That's a Chris Williamson thing, which I think I've mentioned before. So, instead of I want to work out, say I'm the kind of person who takes care of their body.
Yeah, I like that approach. This I much prefer, I think.
I
leaning
like
into
this
this one.
approach, but I like his approach, but I respond better to the Jocko. Drop and give me 20 when it comes to external pressure.
I do find it hard to listen to what I think I find it hard. Maybe I don't. To listen to what I really want to do. But maybe I don't.
Do you ever take the time to sit down and reassess things? Do you brain dump a lot? I do a lot of this. I literally do it. This is how I manage my open tabs.
Not really.
No.
Every now and then, and it's like in spurts.
I brain dump into ChatGPT.
Like what I had with the book thing, like how I just had this whole picture in my head of that triangle diagram thing, and then I put it all onto paper. That was like a massive brain dump for me.
There you go. So you do brain dump.
Maybe once every 4 years or something.
Oh, bloody hell. How do you manage? I would be literally, I think my head would explode.
No, maybe I do it more often. Well, I filled a notebook recently with all my, that's my to-do list. Is that brain dump?
Yes.
Oh yeah, look, I filled my whole
Yeah,
notebook. I'm at the end of it. It's
how do
done.
you write in that? My handwriting is so terrible that I think that.
Oh well, I have to go on the lines. You don't go off the lines, do you?
Well, it's just very small. Look at my book.
Well, I can't.
But for those listening, Juliet has
Angela
got
pulls
like
up
a.
a.
I've got an A4 size
Mine's a wallet
diary
size,
that I
isn't it?
write in.
Mine's a
Look,
wallet
the
size.
size of that bad
Mine's too
boy.
big. Can't deal with that.
Yeah, no. What I like to do is I write in my notes in the day so that I can go back and go, what was I thinking about then? Oh, look, that's
Yeah,
what I was doing.
I
But
never go. I never
I
look
also
back.
have an electronic. I never look back. Oh, that's an
that
interesting statement.
could be a statement, couldn't it?
I
I could
never
put
look
that on
back.
the.
I never look back. Juliet never looks back.
The sun's starting to shine.
You've got the sun today. Damn you! Send it back this way. It's not here yet. It's behind the clouds, but we're not technically in a cloud.
Okay, well that's good.
So, here we go.
So
So, right. And this is like Tiny Wins Compound, and this is a James Clear kind of
okay,
side of things, right? So habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. 1% better every day doesn't look like much until it's everything.
until you've done 100 days.
Yeah.
Very clever. Yeah, of course.
Mm.
Except if you do 1%, if you do 1% more, you've done 101%, and then the next day your 1% is 1% of 101%, so you never actually reach 100% again.
And then that is very true, but also and I think this is another thing that maybe we are too hard on ourselves with, and when you think about, say, perimenopause as well, or menopause in itself, it messes with your executive function as well, doesn't it? So
yeah,
you might be beating yourself up over something that you literally, your brain is under pressure, and that's why.
And that's when you have to lean in to how you feel and give yourself time. According to Maisie Hill.
Yeah. So it's all relative, isn't it? Swings and roundabouts.
Subjective.
Subjective.
Very
So
interesting. And right, let's round it off, shall we? What should we say?
I suppose discipline shouldn't be punishment. It should be perhaps preparation. I don't know. What do you think?
I liked what you said earlier. Sticking to your choices, or something like that, wasn't it? Committing to your choices.
It might have been a Jocko quote, that.
Something like that. Something about values.
Oh yeah, so relating to your values,
And definitely, I've read the thing you said about doing the things that don't always feel comfortable, but help you align with what you feel is important in your life. That's a value.
Yeah.
There's a very good book I've read on values, which I can't remember the name of it or who it's by, but that's kind of that perspective as well.
Martini, he's got a good book on values.
Oh, is it?
The Values Factor. Yeah.
I
actually saw that when I was looking at my book. But this is the thing, isn't it? You could probably read. That's why I said to you about Blinkist. That's why I said to you about Blinkist. I knew you would. I knew you would like the sound of that.
Which one's
because
that?
That's the Blinkist is where it gives you the highlights of the book rather than you having to read it.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No. Sorry. Can't do that.
Oh, good God, no.
Front to back.
That's far too. That's me being disciplined, thinking I'm reading 100 books and I'm really doing Blinkist and reading the excerpts from a 2-hour, like, I don't know, reading session in 20 minutes.
Do you know what worries me? Because it hallucinates, doesn't it? The AI. And so, what if it gets it wrong?
No, I had to have a go at ChatGPT the other day. Anyway, we'll end it there.
All right. See you next time.
Bye.
This journey of life with friendship as our guide, together we'll grow, 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 grow. Grow together we'll grow, grow, grow.